I'm Sam.
And I'm Meddi.
Welcome to the Community On Demand Virtual AI Money Guide Podcast.
In this episode, we're doing a deep dive on turning ideas into real solutions.
Hey everyone, and welcome back. Today we're going to deep dive into something that might seem a little bit ordinary at first glance. Parking. Yep, you heard that right, parking. But stick with us on this one because we've got some really, really interesting source material. It comes from two places, actually. One is a project proposal from the National Society of Black Engineers chapter at Virginia State University.
Oh, wow.
And the second is a list of service learning projects centered around this really intriguing concept of a smart parking deck. And by the end of this deep dive, you'll not only see parking in a whole new light, but also get a glimpse of how technology and education and community collaboration can totally transform something that we usually take for granted.
I think that's one of the coolest things about this deep dive is just how these students are taking what seems like a mundane problem and turning it into something really innovative.
Yeah.
At Virginia State University, the NSBE chapter is trying to solve this problem. They have a major parking shortage on campus.
Yeah, that's a pretty common problem. I think a lot of universities experience that.
Exactly.
It's not unique to VSU. But what is unique is how they're approaching it. So instead of just building another parking garage, they've come up with this concept of a smart parking deck.
So what makes it so smart?
For starters, they're thinking vertically. So the design is going to maximize space.
Ah, so it's not just a flat lot. It's going to be like a parking garage.
This parking garage. But it's a really cool parking garage. They're incorporating all kinds of eco-friendly elements like solar panels, EV charging stations, and get this, even a rooftop garden.
A rooftop garden on a parking deck.
That's what I'm talking about.
That's really cool.
Thinking outside the box.
Yeah.
But it goes beyond just the physical structure. They're also planning to integrate all sorts of cool technology.
Like what?
Well, they're talking about using IoT sensors so that people can see in real time which spaces are available.
Oh, that would be so convenient.
No more driving around in circles, hoping to find an open spot.
Exactly.
The system will actually dynamically allocate parking based on demand.
And they're even considering AI-powered security features to keep everything safe and sound.
Now, from what I understand, the NSBE chapter at VSU, they already have this smart parking app. So I'm imagining this project is going to take that app to a whole new level.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
They're talking about incorporating all kinds of new features. Like you could pay for your parking through the app, reserve a spot ahead of time, maybe even use AR navigation to guide you directly to your parking space.
No more getting lost in the parking garage.
Exactly. No more stress.
Yeah.
No more wasted time.
Yeah.
Just a smooth and seamless parking experience.
But here's what really blew my mind when I was looking at this material. This project is about so much more than just building a better parking deck.
Right. It's about using this parking deck as a catalyst for all kinds of amazing things like STEAM education, workforce development.
What's STEAM?
So STEAM stands for Science, Technology, Engineering, Arts, and Mathematics.
Okay.
And they're really focused on creating opportunities for underserved communities.
I love that.
And they've got this really interesting idea for community engagement as well. It's called the Community On Demand game.
A game. Okay.
Yeah, it's a card game, actually.
About parking.
Well, it's designed to get people thinking critically and collaboratively about solutions to complex problems. And parking is just one example.
Okay, so it's like a problem-solving game.
Exactly. It's about bringing people together from all walks of life to brainstorm ideas and come up with solutions that benefit the whole community.
I mean, I can see how parking would be a good example of that because it affects pretty much everyone.
Right. It impacts traffic flow, accessibility, environmental sustainability, and even economic development.
So they're using parking as a way to kind of get people thinking about all these bigger issues.
It's a microcosm of a much larger set of challenges.
That's really interesting. So tell me more about this game. It's called the
Stakeholder's Dilemma.
The Stakeholder's Dilemma.
And they're actually planning to host an event on MLK Day where people can come together and play the game and share their perspectives.
That's amazing. It's like turning a parking deck into a community center.
Exactly.
That's a really cool idea. So we've got rooftop gardens, AI parking sensors, a community card game. This is way more than just a parking deck.
It's a platform for innovation, education, and community engagement.
And they're using it to teach kids about renewable energy, AI, urban planning, even gardening.
Yeah, imagine a field trip to a parking garage that sparks a passion for STEM.
That would be pretty awesome. Okay, so they've got the education angle, they've got the community engagement piece, but are there any economic benefits to this project?
Oh, absolutely. They're looking at revenue-sharing models that could support academic programs.
Okay.
They're also exploring e-commerce ventures related to the technology they're developing.
Oh, interesting.
And they're even thinking about ecotourism tied to that rooftop garden.
So this parking deck could actually generate revenue for the university and the community.
Exactly. It's about creating a sustainable ecosystem where everyone benefits.
We've gone from parking to rooftop gardens to AI and community engagement all in the space of a few minutes. It's amazing how this one project has so many different facets.
It really does.
And to me, what really stands out is this focus on community engagement and empowerment, especially within underserved communities.
That's a key aspect of this project. They're not just building a parking deck. They're building a community asset. And they're doing it in a way that prioritizes inclusivity and sustainability.
I love that. So what do you think? What are some of the potential long-term impacts of this project, not just for VSU, but for the surrounding community?
Well, I think the potential impact is huge, especially from an educational standpoint. This project is basically creating a living laboratory for STEAM learning.
Oh, yeah, I could see that.
Students could be involved in all aspects, like designing and maintaining those solar panels we talked about, developing the AI algorithms for parking allocation.
Yeah, it would be pretty cool.
Even researching the best plants for that rooftop garden in their specific climate.
Yeah, and it's not just about the technical skills either, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
They'd be getting experience with project management, problem-solving, teamwork, all those really important skills that employers are looking for these days.
Exactly. Those are the kind of skills that can lead to good-paying jobs in fields like renewable energy and smart city development.
And it seems like they're being really intentional about creating opportunities for underserved communities.
Oh, absolutely. That's a key part of their mission.
Which I think is fantastic.
They're not just solving a parking problem. They're investing in the future of their community.
It's a really holistic approach.
And the beauty of this concept is how adaptable it is.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be limited to a university campus.
So where else could you see this kind of smart parking deck being implemented?
Oh, all sorts of places. Like think about a busy downtown area with limited parking. A smart parking deck could incorporate public transportation hubs, ride-sharing services, maybe even some retail space or community centers.
That's a really cool idea.
It becomes a central node in the urban fabric rather than just a place to store cars.
So it's like they're taking something that's often seen as a problem, this lack of parking, and turning it into a solution for multiple challenges.
Exactly.
That's brilliant.
And from a financial standpoint, they're being really smart about it. They're thinking about how to make this project sustainable in the long term.
Yeah, I was impressed by that when I was reading the material.
It's not just a cool idea. It's actually a viable business model.
So how do they plan to make it financially sustainable?
Well, that's where those revenue streams we talked about earlier become really important.
Okay.
They're looking at things like parking fees, of course.
Right.
But also partnerships with local businesses.
Oh, interesting.
Maybe even crowdfunding campaigns to get residents involved.
So it's like a community investment.
Exactly.
I love it.
And they could even sell those community on-demand card games we were talking about.
Oh, yeah, that's a great idea. Speaking of those games, I'm a little bit curious to know how they actually work.
Yeah, me too.
Do you have any insights into the gameplay or the types of dilemmas that players might face?
Well, from what I've gathered, the Stakeholder's dilemma cards present players with various challenges and resources related to a specific issue.
Okay.
In this case, parking.
Right.
And players have to work together, considering different perspectives and trade-offs.
So it's not a competitive game?
Not really. It's about collaboration.
Got it.
It's about finding solutions that benefit the community as a whole.
That makes a lot of sense.
And it's a really valuable skill to learn no matter what field you're in.
Oh, absolutely. Thinking critically, understanding different viewpoints, being able to compromise.
Exactly.
Those are essential life skills.
And it's about understanding the interconnectedness of complex systems.
One thing that really struck me about this project is that it's happening at an HBCU.
Yeah, that's significant.
Historically, Black colleges and universities have such a rich legacy of serving their communities and fostering innovation.
Absolutely.
And this project is a perfect example of that.
It really is.
Now, you mentioned earlier that this project has the potential to be replicated elsewhere. What do you think are the key factors that would make it successful in other contexts?
Well, I think the most important factor is a strong commitment to collaboration. This project is succeeding because they've brought together a diverse group of stakeholders. Students, faculty, community members, local businesses, even government agencies.
It's that whole it takes a village approach.
Exactly.
But it's not just about getting everyone in the same room.
Right.
It's about creating a genuine sense of partnership where everyone's voice is heard and valued.
Absolutely. And that takes leadership.
Vision.
And a willingness to listen and learn from each other.
I think that's so important.
Another crucial element is a focus on sustainability, both environmental and financial.
You've really highlighted how this project goes beyond just addressing a parking shortage. It's about creating a model for sustainable, community-driven development that can be adapted to different contexts. It's inspiring to see how something as seemingly mundane as parking can spark such innovative thinking.
It's a reminder that we should never underestimate the power of creativity and collaboration. Sometimes the most unexpected places can be the starting point for truly transformative change. Now, while this project offers a compelling model, I wonder what unique challenges might a city face when trying to adapt this concept to a larger, more complex urban environment.
That's a really good point. You know, a city is a whole different ballgame compared to a university campus. Like you said, there's existing infrastructure zoning regulations, just the sheer scale of everything.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And in a city, you've got so many more stakeholders to consider. You've got residents, businesses, city departments, tourists, trying to coordinate all those different interests and get everyone on board. That could be a real challenge.
Yeah, and I imagine funding would be a major hurdle as well. A project like this would require a pretty significant investment.
Right, and that's where those creative revenue streams that we were talking about earlier become even more important.
So what are some ways that a city could potentially finance a project like this?
Well, one option would be public-private partnerships,
Okay.
where the city collaborates with private companies to share the costs and benefits of the project. They could also look at tax incentives for businesses that contribute to the project, or even crowdfunding campaigns to get residents involved.
So it's about getting everyone to buy into the vision.
Exactly. And when you have that community support, it makes a huge difference.
I think it also requires a different way of thinking about how we approach urban development.
It does. We need to start seeing these parking structures as more than just places to store cars.
Right.
They can be vibrant community hubs that contribute to sustainability, economic growth, and social equity.
Now, one thing I'm curious about is the accessibility aspect. In a city with a diverse population, how could you ensure that a smart parking deck meets the needs of everyone, including people with disabilities or those who rely on public transportation?
That's a great question, and it's something that needs to be considered from the very beginning of the design process.
Yeah.
The design would need to prioritize universal accessibility.
So things like ramps and elevators.
Exactly. Accessible parking spaces, clear signage. And integration with public transportation would be essential.
So you could seamlessly transfer between buses, trains, and even ride-sharing services.
Right. It would become a multimodal transportation hub.
It sounds like this concept could really revolutionize how we think about mobility in urban planning.
It really could.
Yeah.
And the key is to involve the community throughout the entire process.
From the initial design all the way through to the implementation.
Exactly.
Because ultimately, it's about creating something that serves the needs of the people.
Right.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive, from rooftop gardens and AI-powered security features to community card games and the potential for economic development. It's been a fascinating exploration of how something as seemingly simple as parking can be a catalyst for innovation and positive change.
It really has.
Yeah.
And it all comes back to that core idea of thinking outside the box.
Right.
Challenging our assumptions and finding creative solutions to the problems we face.
So what would you say is the key takeaway for our listeners today?
I think the main takeaway is that we need to stop thinking about parking as just a necessary evil.
Okay.
It could be so much more than that. It could be an opportunity to create something truly special for our communities.
It's inspiring to see how a group of engineering students at VSU are leading the way in this. Their SMART Parking Deck project is a shining example of what's possible when we combine creativity, technology, and a commitment to community engagement.
I completely agree. It's a reminder that solutions to our biggest challenges can often be found in unexpected places.
So the next time you're driving around looking for a parking spot, take a moment to imagine the possibilities. What if that parking structure could be more than just a place to store your car? What if it could be a hub for innovation, education, and community connection?
That's a great question to ponder.
It is food for thought. And on that note, we're going to wrap up this deep dive into the world of smart parking. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.